Hi, my name is Taku and welcome to Kalibu Learners Podcast. Today I'm joined by Gerald, who's a software developer based in Lusaka. Hi, Gerald, how are you doing?
Hey, Taco, I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. So, what does a software developer do? And it's a question, right?
Yeah, sure. So a software developer is basically someone who builds software, right? So an example of software is basically the apps that we use every day: Facebook, WhatsApp, websites, and whatnot. So it's basically someone who builds that.
Sounds so complicated when you get to look at it. Like you deal with ones and zeros.
Oh, it's not necessarily as complicated. So we don't necessarily interact with. Of course, a computer understands zeros and ones, but as a developer, you actually don't code zeros and ones. So programming has been simplified to pretty much write almost English when you're writing the code. So in modern times now, making software has really been simplified. So you don't even see the zeros and ones anymore because, now you can just write almost plain English to be able to publish software.
That's interesting. So what is the experience like being a developer?
My experience has been great. For me, I went to uni to learn programming. I wrote my first line of code at university. So, of course, the training wasn't as intense. You only learn the basics of programming. So I did my programming in C and C++ as well as Java. Mm-hmm. Also learned a bit of some JavaScript and, of course, HTML and CSS. But a lot of learning started when I got into the industry, when I got my first internship. That's when I experienced working with actually real applications.
Wow. It really sounds like it was a life-changing moment, what you learned and now applying.
Exactly.
So how was the gap, what you know and what you're applying? Was it different? Were there any challenges faced in this same phase?
Of course, there were challenges because, when you're working with colleagues who are already established and stuff, they get to throw you a lot of stuff, a lot of technologies, and you have to figure out how to do them. But I was working with a great team, especially at my first internship. So whenever I faced a challenge, I could reach out to them, and they were so helpful.
Wow, that's really interesting. So that's how you were able to overcome some of the challenges.
Exactly.
So you work together a lot. Collaboration is important, especially in your sector.
Exactly. So as a programmer, you definitely need to collaborate to be able to succeed. It's not a one-man show. You definitely have to engage other people to be able to succeed. And of course, there are platforms like YouTube, Stack Overflow, where you can go to and look for, content that has to do with whatever you're working on. And information is a lot out there. So, yeah.
No, that's really interesting. So you work with a lot of digital technologies. You spend half of your time online and exposed to digital screens. How is that like?
To be honest, that was really bad when starting out because, when you're starting out, since you feel there are so many things you need to learn, so you spend most of your time on the screen. I remember I used to do a code, sleep, eat, and repeat routine, which is not very healthy, but I kind of needed that to get my foot into the door. So it was really terrible. You get burnout and whatnot. But over time, after you've learned all the fundamentals, you realize you don't need to spend so much time on your screen. So what you end up doing is, since you understand the fundamentals, all you do is, if you want to learn a new technology, for example, all you do is spend about 60 minutes going through the documentation, and then you should be good.
No, that's interesting. There's been a topic of, in my last episode, I spoke about digital well-being, and now from a point of perspective from someone who actually needs digital wellness and mental well-being, how do you balance life and work, the work?
Yeah, sure. So work-life balance is very important. So everything has got its own time, right? So there's time to work, there's time to relax, there's time to catch up with friends and whatnot. So from the time I learned that, I think, my life has been better. I know that when it's time to work out, I need to do my workout. When it's time to relax, to watch a movie, I need to do that. And when it's time to get work done, I have to make sure I'm on my computer and get the work done.
Oh, it takes a lot of discipline to do that.
Yeah, a lot of it, yeah.
Okay. So, with discipline comes routine. Do you have like a specific routine that you follow so that, you get the best from yourself?
Yeah, sure. So currently I'm working for a US organization. So I start my work around, 5 p.m. up to somewhere around midnight. So I make sure I get everything I need to get done during the day so that when it's work time, I'm ready and I'm prepared for that work. So when I get up, I start doing my workout. After I do workout, I bath, I do everything else I need to do. That way, by the time it's work, I have nothing else to worry about. I just have my focus on work. And I think that has helped me succeed so far.
Okay, that's really interesting. I picked up when you said you work for a US-based organization. Probably there's someone who's listening and wants to get an opportunity like you to work remotely. And how do you come across such opportunities?
Sure. So one great way to get such opportunities is networking, right? So if you're going to network, talk to people. Social media has simplified the way we network, the way we interact with people. Mm-hmm. You can talk to someone who is in whichever part of the country on social media, right? So networking is one aspect. Try to network. Also present the work that you do online, so you can, if you write blogs or whatever you write, post it on social media. If you're building great applications, post it on social media. People that looking for talent, they should be able to see that, and they'll definitely reach out to you if they're interested.
From our previous conversations, you are someone who's interested in open source. Can you take us through what open source technology is?
Yeah, sure. So open source software is software that is free for use by other people, right? So you can get the software, modify it, and use it for your own good, or for free, right? Software has really helped me succeed because there are projects that I worked on that I faced a number of challenges, but because there was an open source project somewhere, I was able to go there and copy some of the code from there and use it in my project, right? And that is all done for free. And this, there's a license that allows you to actually reuse some of that open source code.
Well, that's really interesting. So you are part of Open Source Lusaka?
Yes, I lead the community called Open Source Community Lusaka. So we launched it in November 2019. And the journey so far has been great. So basically what we do is advocate for people to get into open source, and not just advocating them to get into open source, but also help them succeed in their journey, in their open source journey.
Oh, that's interesting. So would you say in Zambia we have a lot of developers?
Yes, we've quite a good number of developers, but there's still room for improvement in as far as skill sets are concerned. Mm-hmm. I've met a lot of developers that are passionate, but they're probably lacking the equipment and whatnot. So yes, we do have a lot of developers, but I think there's more to be done to make sure we can actually compete at international level.
So, when it comes to upskilling yourself, are you doing it locally or you have...
Yeah, so I'm doing it locally, yes. So ideally, like I mentioned, there are so many platforms to learn right now. So what I'm doing is I'm learning from other people that are doing great stuff. people I met on Twitter. Then I'm also using platforms like Udemy, YouTube to learn programming and whatever technology I'm interested in.
Yeah. So what's like, there are a lot of tertiary institutions in Zambia. Do you think there are any who can help you upskill yourself?
Yeah, sure, they're there. But again, the best learning you can ever have if as a software developer is learning on the job, right?
Oh, okay.
So you can go to UNZA, you can go to CBU or a boot camp or whatever. But, so when you go to like a college or a university to learn programming, what you're going to learn are basically the fundamentals, right? But in the industry, there are a lot of factors that come into play. You just don't write code. You have to write code that is maintainable, code that is scalable. They won't teach you that in university or at a boot camp, right? So the best thing you can do is at the job.
Yeah, and learning never stops.
And learning never stops.
Okay. So, in your own ways, like what makes it a good digital product?
Well, a good digital product, I think, is one that solves the real world problem. I've seen a lot of enthusiastic people try to build products without identifying the problem, right? Mm-hmm. That they're doing it wrong. So the best thing to do is identify a real world problem and then, use technology to solve that. And that will be sustainable. And the timing has to be right? So if you identify the problem, work on your product there and then, and make sure you're consistent and get to launch it real quick so that people can start using it and then you start iterating over it and improving it. So basically identifying a problem that people are facing and then use technology to solve that, and you're going to come up with a great product.
Wow. I've learned a lot, like from, this discussion, and now I want to know, what's it like to work in a diverse team? I understand now you have, a different network group that you are collaborating with currently.
Yeah, sure. It's quite interesting. You work with people from different cultures. I work with people from India. I work with people from the US. And I think it's interesting. And one thing I like about my team currently is that everyone on the team is so kind. They're so willing to help. So I think that's exciting, being able to interact with people from different cultures and, being able to achieve the same goal regardless of location.
Wow, that's really amazing. And what of the difference in, beliefs and culture? Does that affect the way you work with each other?
It actually doesn't. So like I mentioned, different cultures, but the same goal. All we're trying to do is to achieve to achieve our goal, right? So all we want is to get done regardless of culture.
Yeah.
Right?
So what's like the difference between an organization in the US and an organization that employs you in Zambia? I know you have like had the opportunity to experience both. Like comparing that experience.
Yeah, sure. So from my own experience, I don't think there's much difference working for an organization here in Zambia and working from an organization in the US. It's all about, what the leadership team decides to, policies they decide to put in place. But there isn't so much differences between a US organization and the Zambian one.
Okay. So in your career, how long have you been a developer?
So I've been developing since 2018.
2018? Wow. That's a long time. Yeah. That's a long time. So it's been like 4 or so years. What's your most proudest moment?
I think for me, the exciting moment for me has been being able to build a community. I've always liked the community, and I actually needed to lead one. I'm happy the community is still running up to this time. I'm also excited that I have a trip to Nigeria to actually attend an open source community, and this will be like my first trip out of the country.
Oh man, you're doing big things. Man.
To attend the conference on open source. So I'm happy that I've reached at this point.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. Like now that you've mentioned it, like, how does one become part of your community? Do I only have to be a developer to be part of your community?
Not at all. So of course, the majority of members in our community are developers, but we're open to everyone from a different kind of, career or field. So to join us, basically just follow us on Twitter. Our handle is at Oscar Lusaka. Once you follow us, we should be able to get interacting on that. And once we usually host Twitter Spaces once in a while, but interaction always continues. So just give us a follow, and you'll be part of the community.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Gerald. This has been like an enlightening moment for me. I can't explain how much I've learned from the very first statement up until now, and it's been an exciting journey.
Thank you so much, Taku. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. All right. Thank you very much for listening through our podcast, and please do follow us on social media. What's your social media handle?